Estimate activity resources is the process of estimating team resources and the type and quantities of materials, equipment, and supplies necessary to perform project work. The key benefit of this process is that it identifies the type, quantity, and characteristics of resources required to complete the project. This process is performed periodically throughout the project as needed. The estimate activity resources process is closely coordinated with other processes, such as the estimate cost process. For example, a construction project team will need to be familiar with local building codes. Such knowledge is often readily available from local sellers. If the internal labor pool lacks experience with unusual or specialized construction techniques, the additional cost for a consultant may be the most effective way to secure knowledge of the local building codes. An automotive design team will need to be familiar with the latest automated assembly techniques. The requisite knowledge could be obtained by hiring a consultant, by sending a designer to a seminar on robotics, or by including someone from manufacturing as a member of the project team. In this lecture, we will be discussing the inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs of this process. The set of inputs are the components of project management plan like resource management plan and scope baseline. Project documents such as activity attributes, activity list, assumption log, cost estimates, resource calendars and risk register, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. The tools techniques to this process are expert judgment, bottom-up estimating, analogous estimating, parametric estimating, data analysis such as alternatives analysis, project management information system, and meetings. The outputs to this process include resource requirements, analysis of estimates, resource breakdown structure, project documents updates such as in activity attributes, assumption log, and lessons learned register. Let's discuss the set of inputs to this process as identified earlier. Project management plan components include resource management plan. The resource management plan defines the approach to identify the different resources needed for the project. It also defines the methods to quantify the resources needed for each activity and aggregates this information. Scope baseline. The scope baseline identifies the project and product scope necessary to meet the project objectives. The scope drives the needs for both team and physical resources. Project documents that can be considered as inputs for this process include activity attributes, activity list, assumption log, cost estimates, resource calendars, and risk register. Activity attributes provide the primary data source for use in estimating team and physical resources required for each activity on the activity list. Examples of attributes include the resource requirements, imposed dates, activity location, assumptions, and constraints. The activity list identifies the activities that will need resources. The assumption log may have information on productivity factors, availability, cost estimates, and approaches to work that will influence the nature and number of team and physical resources. The cost of resources may impact resource selection from the quantity and skill level perspectives. A resource calendar identifies the working days, shifts, start and end of normal business hours, weekends, and public holidays when each specific resource is available. Information on which resources such as team resource, equipment, and material are potentially available during a planned activity period is used for estimating resource utilization. Resource calendars also specify when and for how long identified team and physical resources will be available during the project. This information may be at the activity or project level. This includes consideration of attributes such as resource experience and/or skill level, as well as various geographical locations. The risk register describes the individual risks that can impact resource selection and availability. The enterprise environmental factors that can influence the estimate activity resources process include resource location, resource availability, team resource skills, organizational culture, published estimating data, and marketplace conditions. The organizational process assets that can influence the estimate activity resources process include policies and procedures regarding staffing, policies and procedures relating to supplies and equipment, and historical information regarding types of resources used for similar work on previous projects.